A letter to God. 1. How did Lencho react during the night after the hailstorm? Ans. Lencho's cornfield was totally destroyed due to the hailstorm. His soul was filled with sadness. When the hailstorm passed, he stood in the middle of his field helplessly. He told his son that they would have to go hungry. There was no one to help them. But he had only one hope, that is the help from God. 2. Why did Lencho prefer locusts to the hailstorm? Ants. Locusts are large insects, fly in large and destroy groups in most of the plants and crops on their way, leaving behind only a few remains. But the hailstorm that continued for an hour had completely destroyed Lencho's cornfield. No slightest possibility of recovering a single grain of corn or even a leaf was there. All his good hopes were ruined under the hailstone's grave. Therefore, in despair, Lencho preferred locusts to the hailstorm. 3. What sort of person was the postmaster? Ans. The postmaster had a cheerful disposition. He was a fat, amiable fellow endowed with the milk of human kindness. He was full of admiration for Lencho's abiding faith in God. As a gesture of goodwill, he came forward to help Lencho by contributing some money from his salary and collecting some more from others. Thus he was very charitable indeed. 4. What was Lencho's reaction to the rain? Ans. Lencho was a hardworking farmer. Once his ripe crop was in need of a shower. So he continued to look towards the northeast sky expecting rain. True to his expectations, rain came and big drops of rain began to fall. He could also see the huge mountains of clouds approaching. Lencho went out to have the pleasure of feeling the rain on his body. When he returned, he said the raindrops falling from the sky were new coins. He even compared the big drops with 10-cent pieces and the little ones with 5-cent pieces out of joy. With a satisfied expression, he regarded the field of ripe corn with its flowers. 5. What happened to Lencho's cornfield? As Lencho had predicted, big drops of rain began to fall. Lencho was happy that a good harvest is at hand. But unfortunately, the rain changed to hailstorm. With the rain, the heavy wind blew and the hailstones began to fall. In a few moments, the corn was totally destroyed. Not a leaf remained in the trees. The field covered with hailstones, and it seemed to be covered with salt. All the efforts of Lencho were perished. 6. How did the postman and the postmaster react on seeing Lencho's letter? Ans. Lencho's letter to God at first came into the hand of the postman. Never his career as a postman had he seen or known such a letter having been addressed to God. He laughed his heart out. He took it to the postmaster. The postman too burst out laughing. But he turned serious. He couldn't help admiring the faith to the writer of the letter. Lencho's letter not only surprised but amused them also. 7. That's what they say, no one dies of hunger. Who said this? And why? Ans. Lencho's cornfield was totally damaged by a hailstorm. He broke down in grief when he looked at the field that once promised a rich harvest. Throughout the night, he kept thinking how all his labor went in and how to support his family. He was afraid that his family would go hungry that year. Suddenly, a new hope came to his mind, the help from God. His confidence in God was so strong that he thought God would certainly help him during his hour of crisis. So he consoled himself, saying, "That's what they say, no one dies of hunger." 8. Why did Lencho write a letter to God? Ans. Lencho was a hard-working, simple farmer. He had sown a field of corn and was waiting for rains. His joy knew no bounds when it started raining. He expected a good harvest. But his joy turned to sorrow when rain gave way to hail. After an hour, the field of golden corn was covered with snow. The crop was totally destroyed. Lencho faced ruin. The years seemed bad without any food. This simple, God-fearing man had immense faith in the Almighty. He wrote a letter to God asking for 100 pesos to sow his field again. 9. Who does Lencho have complete faith in? Which sentences in the story tell you this? Ans. Lencho has complete faith in God. The following sentences tell us that. A. Lencho thought only of his one hope, the help of God, whose eyes, as he had been instructed, see everything, even what is deep in one's conscience. B. He wrote, God, if you don't help me, my family and I will go hungry this year. C. God, the money that I asked for, only 70 pesos reached me, send me the rest. 10. What was Lencho's pride and possession? Ans. Lencho lived in the solitary house on the crest of a low hill in the valley. From here, he could survey and see the river and his pride, the field of ripe corn dotted with flowers. These always promised a good harvest. Their only wish was a downpour, and Lencho, who knew his fields intimately, predicted rain. His prediction turned true when it started raining during dinner. He went out to feel the rain and surveyed with satisfaction that his crop would drop with a curtain of rain. He regarded raindrops as the new silver coins. 11. What was the content of Lencho's second letter to God? Ans. The content of Lencho's second letter to God was that of the money he had asked for, only 70 pesos reached him. He begged him earnestly to send him the rest since he badly needed it. He then went on to urge him to send it to him not through the mail because the post office employees were a bunch of crooks. 12. What impressed the postmaster the most about Lencho? What did the postmaster do in order not to shake Lencho's faith in God? Ans. The postmaster was surprised at Lencho's abiding faith in God and his starting up a correspondence with him. In order not to shake Lencho's faith in God, the postmaster came up with the idea of answering Lencho's letter. He collected a little more than half of 100 pesos from different sources, put it in an envelope addressed to God, and with it a letter containing only a single word as a signature, God. 13. Why did Lencho say that the raindrops were like new coins? Ans. Lencho's ripe cornfield was of rain and he had been anxiously waiting for the raindrops for a long time. A shower of rain had great importance for his cornfield. In the northeast, huge mountains of clouds approached and then the air became fresh and sweet. Lencho went out for no other reason than to have the pleasure of feeling the rain on his body. When he returned home, he exclaimed that those raindrops were like new silver coins. 14. Why did Lencho keep on looking at the sky throughout the morning? Ans. Lencho was a poor farmer who knew his cornfields closely. He could see his fields of ripe corn full of flowers that always promised a good harvest. He hoped for a downpour or at least a shower of rain for his fields of ripe corn. So Lencho kept on looking at the sky towards northeast throughout the morning.